Cheryl Cran is a workplace consultant who is a techno and people-savvy person, and in her workshop, she helps leaders and their teams change in a fast-paced, high-tech, multi-generational workplace, don't you know? It is my pleasure to welcome Cheryl Cran, a Gen X boomer cusper, is that right? Back to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to see you.
You too. It's always nice to see you.
That's a lot of acronyms and stuff. The Gen X and the millennial and the cusper and the zoomer and the boomer. Who are you really?
Well, really, you know, when they say Gen X boomer or zoomer, a zoomer is a boomer who refuses to age. When we talk about those, the zoomer is usually in their late 40s up until their late 60s. Gen X is in their 30s up until their late 40s. So I'm 48. So I sit on the edge of being a Gen X and a Zoomer. So.
You see what a sneaky question that was?
Yeah, you got my age out.
I didn't just say, how old are you?
Yeah,
but
no,
it's okay.
it's
Women can say how old they are today, can't they?
It's, you know, I think we should be telling people how old we are. I think the days of, you know, being secretive about it is manipulative in some way. Yeah.
Want to know how old I am?
No.
67. So there.
What?
Yes. I'm a senior citizen. Yes,
so you would be a Zoomer. You would be
I'm
a Zoomer. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, you're rocking it for 67, my friend.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah,
and
you are.
May we continue.
Yes. Yeah.
Go viral, as they say. So we're supposed to be talking about going viral, technology in the workplace, adapting to technology in the workplace. Where to start?
Well, you know, actually, it literally sort of, for me as a consultant, it sort of revealed itself through the generations work. So what was happening is the consulting clients that I was working with were saying, you know, we're starting to see some adaptation challenges in the workplace. So you've got the Generation Y, those in their 20s, who are very tech savvy. They're coming in with, you know, the iPad and the apps and their iPhones and their apps and all these technical solutions that they're bringing to the workplace. And their expectation is that all of that technology will be available for them. Then you've got Generation X, who wants the technology, but they've had the realities of working in a boomer-based or boomer-focused workplace. So what's happening is a lot of the challenges in communication are coming with, you still have a fraction of baby boomers who are refusing to get on the technology train. They're really, you know, I don't want to do this new technology, or the way we've done it works fine. Or they do want to get on the technology train, but they don't want to look stupid. And so they're uncomfortable with admitting what they don't know. And so there's some challenges happening as a result of this.
Certainly, and if you're working with someone who's higher up than you are, who is not on the tech train, and they ask you to be their tech support, I read something you wrote recently in an article. I think you either wrote or talked about it, and someone's secretary said, that's not my job.
Exactly.
I'm not here to help you figure out what's not right on your tweet or something.
Yeah. Actually, that was a true story. It was a client. I was in Houston, Texas working, and this gentleman said to me, he was a Zoomer, and he said, you know, I realized that I was creating a problem when I asked this person to do something for me, and she told me it wasn't her job.
Right, not my job to help you get technical.
Yeah, it's not my job to help you figure this out. And so he said he kind of did at first he was offended, and he went to his boss and complained and said, she's not a team player. And the boss said, actually, she's right. And
well,
so,
but sometimes we do. I certainly need help.
Sure. Yeah, nothing wrong with
not
needing
always,
help.
but there are days when you say, I don't know what happened here. But
Right. And so there's nothing. So my whole point with when I talk with boomers who don't know the technology is have the, you know, put the ego aside and have the confidence to go to someone who does know and say, could you spend some time with me on this so I can really figure it out, because I'm tired of bothering you with it.
Sure, and many Zoomers I know, we've been raised on privacy, privacy, privacy. You don't want people to see what you're writing in your journal, and you don't want people to see, you know, what you're doing at your desk and all of that, and who has what, who has access to what.
Right. Whereas Gen X and Y are all open books. It's all about everybody needs to know everything. And so
pictures,
there is a
drunk or not.
Yes, yes. Naked pictures on your cell phone. I don't quite get that one, but.
No, that's risky.
That's risky.
There's not one on mine.
Yeah, no.
No.
No, very prudent.
But it's so true, because I say to my children, be careful what you put up on Facebook, and we've heard the warnings, and just be careful what you send, because one day, when you want to run for premier or something, someone will find that.
And I just read somewhere, and I think it was the Globe and Mail, and it might have been this on Friday, I'm not sure, where organizations are being given permission to search your Facebook and your Twitter and in some cases in the US, getting the passwords, asking for your passwords to those social media accounts so that they can further investigate.
Really? Is it legal yet?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure
when I read the article, they were saying that that organizations are requesting it. I don't know if it's legal, because to me it's invasion of privacy.
Of course.
But,
well, yeah, your password. But they say that if you guess enough, you usually figure out someone's password, and,
there's
and
not a lot
then
of
you
privacy
do have
there.
access. And maybe today they hire hackers. I don't know.
Who knows?
Hire a hacker, find out what George is doing in that meeting. What about in meetings?
Yes.
Using it in a meeting effectively.
Yeah.
A tablet, a smartphone.
You know, as a speaker, you know, it's funny. I was just at an event where the person before me said, "Everybody turn off their cell phones, turn off your personal devices, and focus on the speaker." Right? And in my mind, I'm laughing because I'm going, "That's never happening." A, they're not turning it off. B, if they have it off, it's on vibrate. C, they're sneakily going under the table and texting while you're talking. So let's take the blinders off and look at the truth here of what's really happening in meetings. So
in courtrumes,
everywhere,
even though it's not supposed to.
It is, and photos that shouldn't be allowed are being taken, and all sorts of things are happening. But my thing about, you know, when you're in a meeting is, I think if we open the use of technology and put parameters around it, you've now created a more open dialogue. For example, if you and I were in a meeting 10 years ago and somebody got a phone call on their cell, they would get up and leave the meeting to take that call. Well, some could argue, and Gen Y's argue, that that's more disruptive than to get a very discreet text that's silent, that asks a quick question that they can answer and still be present for the meeting. So for me, it's like, let them have their iPads, but give them parameters around how the meeting is going to be conducted with the technology. A lot of times in my meetings, I get my audiences to text my phone, and it works incredibly well. If you go to my website, I actually you can text my name to some text numbers in Canada and the US, and you can actually get a free audio from me. So mobile marketing is becoming a very popular way for people to interact. So when I am doing my presentations, I'll say, text me your questions. Well, especially when you're talking about generations, you're talking about leadership, there's some sense that some people don't want to say anything because their boss is sitting right beside them.
Sure, and it's also instant to you, right? You're on the stage.
It's real time. It's real time. So
you're multitasking on stage, are you?
So what'll happen is they'll text me, and I'll get the text, and I'll go, you know, that's a perfect time. And what happens is, because I've already prepared the content, the questions are rarely a surprise.
Okay, that's probably true.
So it's rarely a surprise. I mean, I had one person text me and say, "Nice shoes," you know, while I'm on stage, you know. Oh yeah, and then I've had another where it's like, "Are you single?" You know, so. But what you do with those is you have fun with them. Yeah, you have fun. You say to the audience, "Somebody just asked if I was single," and everybody titters, right?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do, because you're not.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe you are. I don't know.
I'm not.
We haven't caught up.
No, still married.
Okay, still married.
Still keeping them around for a while.
Still married, but you need a little lightness in any presentation.
Right.
Of course you do, because you're trying to absorb, and you know, as a public speaker.
Right. And the texting, though, I've found people are asking things that they would never ask if I'd said, "Put up your hand and ask," which is really cool. So.
You also wrote something about leading to match your environment and referred to Steve Jobs about what he knew to do.
Yes. Well, for me, Steve Jobs, now he's been vilified as not a great leader, that he was quite...
he's my kind of leader. I was never led by him, but I would suggest my kind of leader.
Mine as well, but people would argue that he was intimidating, that he was abrupt, that he didn't have patience. But if you look at what he created, he was a very creative guy.
His imagination.
Yeah, he was almost
more important than knowledge.
Almost like a nutty professor type, like so creative. So I'm not making excuses for his lack of people skill, but what I'm saying is he knew to adapt to his environment. So the leadership was appropriate. So in the tech industry, everything's fast. Even Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, he's a little bit more people, but not really. He, you know, I don't know if you ever saw the movie with Mark Zuckerberg about Facebook, but he's not. He himself doesn't have tremendous people skill. He's more of a creative guy, a cerebral guy, and he's all about what he sees for the future. And what I would argue about Steve Jobs is he wanted technology simplified for the masses, and he created that through Apple. And so his leadership achieved the greater good, and that the people around him who could work with him adapted to his style, rather than try to make him a leader that was supposed to fit some sort of leader ideal.
Makes sense. And then the great paper chase. Supposedly all this technology eliminates paper and all, you know, not here, it doesn't seem to. Yeah,
it's beginning to, and that's where the mobile technology comes in. So with the cloud and with all these other ways to store data safely, we're going to be seeing the paperless, and the environmental movement is causing more of a reality. I think what happens when email came in, 10, 15 years ago, it increased paper because remember, baby boomers needed to print everything out to have a copy to make sure it was tangible. Gen X and Y do not have the same needs.
No, I know, but when I'm thinking, I need to circle and make notes and jots and all of that, and I know I can do it on my tablet or on my computer. Not the same.
Yeah, no, and so it's not that either's right or wrong, it's just recognizing that like for a Gen Y, to use the app Jot on their iPhone to write something down or to use their notes on their iPhone is far more efficient to them than the pen and paper option.
Well, one of my best friends said to me on the weekend, I'm going to put on your tombstone, let me write that down. Because I still have the little notebook, old reporter, something, and I know I can do it on my smartphone, I can, and I have, but I still say, let me write that down.
So I would call that an ingrained pattern that has been developed that is comfortable for you. But again, there's no right or wrong. Now, if you were working with a whole group of Gen Ys who didn't do that,
you have to go to their side.
Then they're going to go. So, for example, I've always been a pen and paper person too. But since getting the iPhone and since having my iPad, the notes feature, I can literally take notes on my iPhone or my iPad, and it immediately goes into my email. Before, when I take paper notes, what do? I go and try to transcribe them, but I never do. So I come back from a conference and I've got a wire notebook full of stuff that I might look at. But I find, since using the technology, it's right there for me.
Yeah, the wire notebooks you spilled your coffee on, you mean that wire notebook? You know, I totally get it. But as we go forward, or you give me a business card, I put it immediately into my phone. I've got all your contacts, it's all there. When do you say, not now, not me? For instance, everybody seems to be LinkedIn. Not everybody, but a lot of business people. LinkedIn. Who do you want to be LinkedIn with? How do you make those decisions?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had 2 people deny my request to be a LinkedIn person, and the conditions were interesting to me. And by the way, it's never personal, although we want to make it personal. Like,
Maybe it is.
Why don't you want to be LinkedIn with me? What did I do? You know, in the case of the one person, he said to me, I only use LinkedIn within my own industry. Pardon me. So he says, I only use it within my own industry, so thank you for the reach out. I'd prefer to communicate by email with my suppliers / contacts. I don't use LinkedIn for that purpose. Now, by the way, he was a traditional Zoomer. Okay. And then the other person said to me, I use LinkedIn for my suppliers only, not for my contractors or whatever. So some people use LinkedIn very specifically within their business. For me, because I'm self-employed, I don't have any of those restrictions. I accept almost every LinkedIn request. I accept almost every Facebook friend request. I accept every Twitter follower, unless, and there's been 3 times where I've unfriended someone when they're posting things on my wall that is not appropriate, or they've, I don't know who the other friends are that have referred them to me. But in short answer to the LinkedIn, it should be people that you want to do more business with, or people that are connections for you to help other people with. That's how I view the use of LinkedIn.
I get it, because it is irritating when half the planet wants to be linked in, and most of the time you don't know who they are.
Yes, that's true. Yes. So then for me,
I know that's a Zoomer thing too. It has to be, but I think, who are you?
Right. But then that's where, if somebody was wise with using LinkedIn with you, for example, they'd say, hi, Fanny, I'm a friend of Cheryl Cran. She recommended I join you on LinkedIn. Then you'd have some context. But when they just do the, hi, I'd like to join you on LinkedIn, that drives me crazy too, because who are you and what's the context?
But you're afraid to write that back, because what if there's somebody you know? Faux pas. Complete faux pas. Well, always interesting. 101 Ways to Make Generations X, Y, and Zoomers Happy at Work. Your last book, Control Freak Revolution, still valid.
Yes.
A new one in the hopper?
I have a new one in the hopper, all to do with technology in a fast-paced, changing workplace.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is just the pre-course today?
This is, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Cran, workplace consultant, public speaker.